She escaped her toxic relationship thinking she got freedom, unaware the woman about to break into her apartment was a mafia boss, and that her ex wanted her dead. It had been 6 months Katie planned to leave her toxic relationship, but the thought of surviving weighed her down, leaving her to endure the pain and beating. The clock on the kitchen wall had a cruel way of ticking, like it was keeping score of every second Katie survived. In 6 months, she had learned the rhythms of Brian's rage, the way sailors learn the moods of the sea. The slam of the gate that meant his day had gone badly, the scrape of shoes on tile that told her whether drinks had already lit a fuse, the false softness of his voice when he called her darling before the storm. 6 months of slipping coins into the lining of an old purse, 6 months of counting, recounting, and recounting again like prayer beads. 6 months of keeping her smile stitched together by threads so thin a breath could break it. Katie had been an orphan who learned early that the world didn't slow down for the small or the scared. Then Brian found her, and for a while, she thought she'd found safety. She was wrong. Tonight, in a cramped apartment that smelled of mildew and desperation, Katie was peeling the plastic off a burner phone. Her hands shook. Rain hammered the single window. Somewhere in the building, a baby cried. Somewhere closer, a door slammed. She didn't hear the deadbolt turn, not at first. But when she did, her world stopped. The sound wasn't violent. It was worse. It was professional, controlled. The click of metal against metal, precise and quiet, like a surgeon's cut. Katie's breath caught in her throat. The burner phone clattered to the linoleum floor. She dove for the mattress. Her fingers found the cold metal of the tire iron she kept hidden there. It was rusted, pathetic, but it was all she had. The door swung open, slow, deliberate. Standing in the doorway, perfectly dry against the storm, was a woman in a tailored charcoal suit. She was flanked by a man the size of a refrigerator, calmly pocketing lockpicks. The woman's eyes swept the room, landing on Katie and the tire iron in her trembling hands. "Drop the toy, Katie." Her voice was low, cultured, commanding. "Your ex, Brian, hired a man to do this tonight. The difference is, he wouldn't have knocked. Before I continue, please take a moment to subscribe. My husband said I can't reach 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove him wrong. Thanks for subscribing." Katie didn't move, couldn't move. The tire iron felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The woman in the suit took one step inside. The massive man, Luca, she would later learn, closed the door behind them with a soft click. Who are you?" Katie's voice cracked. The woman pulled out her phone. She swiped once, held it up. On the screen was a photo of Katie, this morning, buying coffee at the corner bodega. The image was so clear Katie could see the fear in her own eyes. "My name is Nicole, and I know exactly where you've been for the last 6 months. Your ex doesn't. That's the only reason you're still breathing." Katie's knees buckled. She caught herself on the edge of the mattress. "Why are you here?" "Because Brian hired a hitman, a sloppy one, and he's operating on my territory without permission." Nicole's tone didn't change. Cold, factual. "He's cleaning up his personal trash on my pavement. That's bad for business." Katie's mind raced. Hitman, territory, business. The words didn't make sense. "I don't understand." "You don't need to." Nicole glanced at her watch. "You have 2 minutes to decide. Come with me now or stay here and meet the man Brian paid to end you. He'll be here in less than 3 minutes, and he won't use lockpicks." Katie looked at the burner phone on the floor, at the tire iron, at the single window with its rusted fire escape. Every exit was a trap. Every choice was a noose. "Why would you help me?" Nicole's expression didn't soften. "I'm not helping you. I'm protecting my interests. Your collateral damage I'm choosing to minimize. Now move." Luca stepped forward. His presence filled the room like water filling a sinking ship. Katie realized she wasn't being given a choice. She was being told. And the woman in the charcoal suit wasn't asking twice. Katie grabbed the one thing that mattered. A small, worn sketchbook from under her pillow. She clutched it to her chest like a life raft. "Smart," Nicole said, her eyes flickering to the sketchbook. "Let's go." They moved fast. Down the back stairs, through a service exit Katie didn't even know existed. The rain was heavier now, drumming against the alley like bullets. A black SUV waited, engine running, windows tinted so dark they looked like voids. Katie was pushed, gently but firmly, into the back seat. Nicole slid in beside her. Luca took the driver's seat. The doors locked with a heavy thunk that sounded like a coffin closing. "Where are we going?" Katie whispered. "Somewhere Brian can't find you." Nicole didn't look at her. She was typing rapidly on her phone, her fingers a blur. "Yet." Katie's stomach twisted. "Yet?" Nicole finally turned. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. "Brian didn't just hire a hitman, Katie. He filed a missing persons report 3 days ago. He's playing the concerned husband, the devoted man whose unstable wife disappeared. He's turned you into a fugitive." The words hit like a punch. Katie's vision blurred. No, he wouldn't. He already did. There's a detective assigned to your case. Your photo is circulating. If you surface, you'll be arrested. And the moment you're in custody, Brian will know exactly where you are. Katie couldn't breathe. The walls of the SUV pressed in. She'd escaped one cage only to find herself in another. "So what do I do?" "You do exactly what I tell you." Nicole's voice was steel. "Brian made this mess. I'm going to unmake it. But you're going to help me. How?" Nicole's eyes dropped to the sketchbook in Katie's lap. "You were married to him for 3 years. You managed his accounts, his schedules, his secrets. Tell me, Katie, what else did you memorize?" Katie's blood turned to ice. She knew. Somehow, this stranger in a suit knew what Katie had spent 3 years pretending she didn't know. The encryption phrases, the offshore accounts, the shadow server with every dirty transaction Brian had ever made. "I don't know what you're talking about," Nicole smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "You're a terrible liar. That's going to be a problem." The SUV turned sharply. Katie grabbed the door handle. Outside, the city blurred into streaks of neon and shadow. She had no idea where they were going. No idea who this woman really was. No idea if she'd just traded one monster for another. But as the rain pounded the roof and the city disappeared behind them, Katie realized something terrifying. Nicole wasn't just saving her. Nicole was using her. And Katie had no choice but to let her. They arrived at a building Katie would never be able to find again. It was industrial, anonymous, the kind of place that existed in the cracks between neighborhoods, where no one asked questions and no one looked twice. Inside, it was different, clean, efficient, a command center disguised as a warehouse office. Monitors lined one wall, showing security feeds from angles Katie couldn't identify. 2 other people were already there, silent, watchful, armed. Nicole gestured to a chair. "Sit." Katie sat. Luca handed her a bottle of water. She didn't drink it. Her hands were shaking too badly. Nicole leaned against the desk, arms crossed. "Here's what's going to happen. Brian has 48 hours before his asset sale goes through. He's liquidating everything, his accounts, his properties, his network. Once that sale closes, he disappears. New identity, new country, and you become a cold case." Katie's throat tightened. "Asset sale?" "He's selling his entire financial empire to a rival organization. It's a scorched earth move. He's cashing out and running." Nicole's jaw tightened. "And the hitman he hired? That's not a random freelancer. That's an old family friend. Someone who owes Brian's father a blood debt. This isn't just business. It's personal." Katie's mind spun. "So what do you want from me?" Nicole pushed off the desk. She moved to the monitors, tapping one screen. Brian's face appeared. A photo from some charity gala, his smile wide and empty. "I want to ruin him, completely, legally. I want every authority in 3 states to know exactly who Brian is and what he's done. And you're going to help me do it." "How?" Nicole turned. "You're going to give me the encryption phrase, the one that unlocks his shadow server." Katie's heart stopped. "I can't." "You can. If I do that, I'm admitting I was part of it. I helped him. I'll go to jail." "You'll go to jail if you don't." Nicole's voice was sharp. "Right now, Brian is painting you as the unstable wife, the woman who snapped. If we don't flip the script, you're not just running from a hitman. You're running from the law. Forever." Katie looked down at her sketchbook. The pages were filled with drawings, buildings, structures, dreams. It was the only thing Brian hadn't destroyed, the only proof she'd once had a future. "Why do you even care?" Katie whispered. Nicole was silent for a moment. Then she moved closer, crouching so they were eye level. "Because men like Brian think they own the world, and women like us have to remind them they don't." It wasn't an answer, but it was enough. Katie closed her eyes. "If I give you the phrase, what happens to me?" "You disappear, cleanly, legally, new identity, new city, new life." Nicole stood. "And Brian goes to prison." Katie opened her eyes. She looked at the sketchbook, at the drawings that represented everything she'd lost, everything she still wanted. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll help you." Nicole nodded. Smart choice. But as she turned away, Katie saw something flicker across her face, something that looked almost like respect. The first 24 hours were a blur. Nicole's team moved fast. They set up electronic surveillance. They intercepted Brian's communications. They tracked the hitman's movements through the city like predators circling prey. Katie stayed in the safe house. She gave Nicole pieces of information, small things at first. An account number, a routing sequence. Each piece felt like a betrayal. Not of Brian, but of herself. Because she'd been part of it, even passively, even terrified. She'd typed the numbers, printed the statements, smiled at the lawyers, and now she was using that complicity as currency. On the second night, everything changed. Katie was in a small side room, sketching. It was the only thing that kept her hands from shaking. The door was open. She could hear Nicole and Luca talking in low voices in the main room. Then the lights went out. Not a flicker, not a power surge. A clean, deliberate cut. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in red. "Contact," someone shouted. Katie dropped her pencil. She heard footsteps. Fast, heavy. Then gunfire. Not the loud movie kind, but sharp, suppressed cracks that made her ears ring. Luca appeared in the doorway. "Stay down!" Katie hit the floor. She pressed herself against the wall, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. Through the gap in the door, she saw shadows moving. Nicole was there, her gun drawn, her movements precise. Then she saw him, the hitman, tall, broad, moving like a ghost through the red light. He wasn't going for Katie, he was going for Luca. The fight was brutal, fast. Luca fought like a bear, but the hitman was faster. A knife flashed. Luca went down, blood spreading across his shirt. Nicole screamed, an actual, raw scream, and fired twice. The hitman dodged. He grabbed something off the desk, and then he was gone, back through the entry point, disappearing into the dark. Katie's ears were ringing. She couldn't move. Luca was on the ground, conscious but bleeding badly. Nicole was on her phone, barking orders, her voice tight with fury. And then Katie realized her sketchbook was gone. She looked down at her empty hands. The hitman had taken it. Not her, not the data, the sketchbook. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Nicole turned. She saw Katie's face, saw the empty hands, and something in her expression shifted. The cold calculation cracked. "He took it," Katie said, her voice breaking. "He took everything." Nicole crossed the room in 3 strides. She grabbed Katie by the shoulders, forcing her to focus. "Listen to me. That sketchbook is bait. Brian knows about it. He knows it's the one thing you care about. He's using it to draw you out." "I don't care," Katie's voice cracked. "That's my life. That's my future. And it'll still be your future." Nicole's voice was hard, final. "But first we're getting it back, and then we're destroying him." Katie looked into Nicole's eyes. They weren't cold anymore. They were burning. This wasn't business. Not anymore. This was personal. Luca survived. Barely. Nicole's team moved him to a secure medical facility. Off the books, no questions asked. But the damage was done. The safe house was compromised. And Nicole's veneer of control had shattered. They moved to a secondary location, a motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place where the neon sign flickered and no one cared about names. Katie sat on the edge of a lumpy bed, staring at her empty hands. Nicole was on the phone, pacing. Her voice was low, venomous. When she hung up, she threw the phone onto the bed. "They found Luca's blood," she said flatly. "The police are calling it a gang-related shooting. Brian's lawyer is already spinning it. saying you're connected to organized crime, that you're dangerous. Katie's stomach turned. This is insane. This is strategy. Nicole sat down heavily. For the first time, she looked tired. Hyman. Brian is smarter than I thought. He's not just running. He's burning every bridge behind him. And he's making sure you burn with them. So what do we do? Nicole was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at Katie. We accelerate. Brian's asset sale is happening tomorrow night. A meeting at his lawyer's office, the one you used to sign documents at. You know that building, don't you? Katie nodded slowly. She'd been there a dozen times. She knew the layout, the maintenance shafts, the blind spots Brian used to avoid cameras when he needed privacy. The hitman will be there, with your sketchbook. He's using it as proof of completion. Evidence that he neutralized you and secured Brian's exit. Nicole leaned forward. We're going to be there too. And we're going to take everything. The sketchbook. The data. And Brian's freedom. Katie's pulse quickened. That's suicide. That's justice. Nicole stood. Brian thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he can hire violence, frame you, and walk away clean. We're going to show him he's wrong. Katie looked up. Why are you really doing this? It's not just about territory. It's not just business. Nicole was silent. Then she reached up and touched the small crescent scar beneath her eye. My father built an empire on fear. When he died, every man in the organization questioned whether I could lead. They wanted me to be soft, emotional, weak. Her jaw tightened. I've spent 2 years proving I'm not. That I'm smarter, cleaner, better. And Brian, hiring a hitman, making a mess on my territory. Treating women like disposable problems. He represents everything I'm trying to erase. She looked at Katie. This isn't just about you. It's about sending a message. That there are lines and consequences. Katie's chest tightened. She saw it now. Nicole wasn't just a mafia boss. She was a woman fighting a war on 2 fronts, against men like Brian, and against men in her own world who thought she didn't belong. Okay, Katie said quietly. I'm in. Nicole nodded. Then let's end this. The next day was preparation. Nicole's team worked in tight, controlled bursts. They mapped the building, identified entry points, tracked the hitman's movements. Katie sat in the corner, memorizing the plan. But her mind kept drifting to the sketchbook, to the hours she'd spent drawing futures she didn't think she'd ever have. And now it was in the hands of a killer, being used as a trophy. Nicole sat down beside her. You're thinking about it. Katie nodded. It's stupid. It's just paper. It's not. Nicole's voice was softer than Katie had ever heard it. It's proof you survived. That you're more than what he made you. Katie looked at her. Did you ever lose something like that? Nicole was quiet. Then she reached into her jacket and pulled out a small, worn photograph. It showed a young girl, maybe 8, standing beside an older man. Both were smiling. The girl's eyes were bright, unguarded. My father, Nicole said quietly, before the empire, before the violence, when he was just Dad. She tucked the photo away. I keep it to remember who I'm fighting for and who I'm fighting against. Katie understood. We're not that different, are we? No, Nicole said. We're not. That night, they moved. The building was a mid-rise office complex, mostly abandoned after business hours. Nicole's team split into 2 groups. One would secure the perimeter. The other, Nicole, Katie, and 2 operatives, would go inside. Katie's heart pounded as they moved through the underground parking garage. The air was cold, damp, heavy with the smell of oil and concrete. Nicole's hand signals were precise, efficient. They took the maintenance stairs. Katie led the way, her memory of the building sharp despite the years. She pointed out the camera blind spots, the locked doors Brian used to bypass, the shortcuts. They reached the 3rd floor, the lawyer's office. Through the reinforced glass door, Katie could see lights, movement, voices. Nicole held up a hand. She pressed her ear to the door. Then she looked at Katie and mouthed, He's inside. Katie's pulse roared. The hitman, the sketchbook. Everything was on the other side of that door. Nicole's operatives moved into position. She counted down on her fingers. 3, 2, 1. They breached. The room exploded into motion. The hitman was fast, faster than Katie expected. But Nicole's team was faster. Gunfire cracked. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. Katie pressed herself against the wall, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. She saw the hitman, tall, broad, his face hidden behind a balaclava, grab a briefcase and bolt for the back exit. Nicole pursued. Katie, stay here. But Katie didn't stay. She ran. Not after Nicole. After the briefcase. Because inside that briefcase was her sketchbook. Her future. She followed the hitman through a side corridor, her feet pounding against tile. He was faster, but she knew this building. She cut through a storage room, emerging ahead of him in the main hallway. He skidded to a stop, saw her, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. You're the wife, he said. His voice was rough, surprised. Ex-wife, Katie corrected. Her voice shook, but she didn't move. And that briefcase isn't yours. He laughed. It was an ugly sound. You think you're brave? You think standing here changes anything? No. Katie's hands clenched into fists. But I think you underestimated me. Behind him, Nicole appeared. Silent, deadly, her gun raised. Drop it, Nicole said. The hitman turned. His hand moved toward his weapon. Nicole didn't hesitate. She fired once. The hitman dropped. The briefcase hit the floor. Katie ran forward, falling to her knees beside it. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside, beneath stacks of documents, was her sketchbook. Intact, whole. She pulled it out, clutching it to her chest. Tears streamed down her face. Nicole crouched beside her. You okay? Katie nodded, unable to speak. Nicole stood, extending a hand. Come on, we're not done. They moved fast. Nicole's team secured the office. Inside, they found the lawyer, pale, terrified, cooperating the moment Nicole's gun appeared. He gave them access to the server room, to Brian's files, to everything. Katie sat at the terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She entered the encryption phrase, the one she'd memorized 3 years ago, the one she'd prayed she'd never have to use. The screen flickered, files appeared, thousands of them, bank statements, transactions, communications. Every illegal deal Brian had ever made, laid bare in black and white. Got it, Katie whispered. Nicole leaned over her shoulder. Send it, everywhere. Katie hesitated. If I do this, there's no going back. I'm a witness. I'll be questioned, investigated. You'll be free, Nicole's voice was firm. Brian will be arrested. His network will collapse, and you'll have your life back. Katie looked at the sketchbook on the desk beside her, at the drawings of buildings she'd never built, futures she'd never lived. She hit send, the files uploaded, to the FBI, to the state attorney general, to financial regulators, to every authority that could touch Brian's empire. It took 90 seconds. 90 seconds to destroy a man who'd spent years destroying her. When it was done, Katie sat back. Her hands were shaking. It's over. Not yet. Nicole's phone buzzed. She answered, listened, then smiled. It was sharp, victorious. They got him. Brian's private jet was stopped on the runway. He's in custody. Katie couldn't breathe. He's arrested, completely, and facing 40 years minimum. Nicole pocketed her phone. You did that. You ended him. Katie looked at her hands. They were still shaking. But for the first time in 6 months, it wasn't from fear. It was from relief. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Nicole's team was already gone, vanished like smoke. Katie stayed. She gave a statement. She told them everything. About Brian. About the abuse. About the files. She didn't mention Nicole. The detective, a tired-looking woman with kind eyes, took notes, asked questions. Finally, she closed her notebook. You're a brave woman, the detective said. Katie shook her head. I'm just tired. 3 months later, Katie sat in a small apartment near a university campus. The apartment was clean, secure, anonymous. It had appeared in her name a week after Brian's arrest, along with a lease paid in full for 2 years. No note, no explanation, just a key and an address. Katie knew who it was from. She was enrolled in architecture school now. Her sketchbook, the real one, the one that had survived, sat open on her desk, its pages filled with new drawings, new dreams, Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Keep building. Katie smiled. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She deleted the number, not out of fear, not out of rejection, but because she didn't need it anymore. She was safe, not because someone was protecting her, but because she'd learned to protect herself. Katie picked up her pencil. She looked at the blank page, and she started to draw. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe. My husband challenged that I can't reach 1,000 subscribers. Let's prove him wrong. Thanks for subscribing.